Hey guys, Sensor here, and welcome to another Shadowlands beta video. This time we're going to go over the Kyrian Soulbinds. So the first one, and just for reference, I'm on my enhancement shaman. But yeah, I'm gonna talk more about general, but might also emphasize how these affect shaman. But anyway, the first one is Pelagos, and you get the first one for free. There's no choice involved. Let go of the pass. So using a spell or ability increase your versatility by 1% for 10 seconds. And then using another spell or ability increases that amount by 1% when it's not a repeat of the previous spell or ability, stacking up to 5 times. This is the reason why in my previous video I said this seemed really good for Monk, and a lot of the stuff seemed like it would be decent for Monk, because this is just playing the Monk. The point of a monk is to use a different abilities, and versatility is pretty high on their um, secondary stat list for most of the time. Like the past couple expansions, versatility has been pretty high, so this just seems made for monk. But obviously, it lasts for 10 seconds. It doesn't say that it drops if you don't do a different ability, so it should be pretty easy to get that basically 5% versatility increase. So that's going to be useful for most people. It's just a free 5% versatility increase. And then you get to choose the first choice you have is actually between which conduit you want. So that's going to be kind of interesting. So usually you would want potency um, over finesse, but finesse is more like utility. But it also depends on the next trait. So if you pick the potency one, you'll get focusing mantra. Defeating an enemy lowers the cooldown of your file of serenity. So again, that's it's the item you get for when you use your Kyrian ability, the general summon steward ability, which will give you health back and remove the different bad effects on you. So this just lets you get it, lets you use it more often. And so the other one is File of Patience, and it makes your File of Serenity heal you for an additional amount, but all of its healing is done over 10 seconds. So it basically just puts a hot on you instead of increase the healing, but puts a hot on you. So it's really just which one do you want, you know, uh, and which conduit do you want. So then you get Endurance without doing anything, and then you make the next selection. I think it's interesting, like compared to when I was looking at the soulbinds for Night Fae, usually the first thing you would get would be the trait and then the conduit. It's the same outcome, but you're getting the conduit first and then the trait. So if you pick the potency conduit, you get access to Bond of Friendship, where defeating an enemy reduces the cooldown of your steward's non-file services by 1 second. And if you pick the Endurance, then you get Road of Trials, which defeating an enemy grants you 10% movement speed for 20 seconds. And it's increased, the effect is increased if it's a powerful enemy, so that's kind of interesting. And then Walk Together if you pick the Finesse one, where Pelagos will periodically send you crafting materials, and increasing for every dungeon, raid, battleground, arena, and quest completed while soulbound. So get you some crafting stuff. Either crafting things, uh, increase movement speed for killing people, or reducing the cooldown of the non-file services. So that'll be yeah, kind of interesting. Um, and then you get the potency conduit for free, and then combat meditation, Vesper totem. So again, I'm on the shaman, so it makes my class ability will increase my mastery by 5% for 20 seconds, and occasionally expel sorrowful memories. And if you walk through the memories, it increase the effect. So it's a thing that gives you mastery for 5%, and you have a chance to extend the duration of that. Plus the pretty much constant versatility that you're getting. It's a pretty good thing for DPS, and just an all around a good soulbind, in my opinion. And then we have Clea. You have to choose between Ascendant File, where File of Serenity will render you immune to curse, disease, poison, and bleed effects. So that'll cure them, and then this will also make you immune to them. So that's kind of a nice extra effect on that. And then Mentorship, while above 90% health, you increase your party members' maximum health by 5%. Another one of those situations where like I feel like this is good for, this one's probably decent for healers. Uh, because you can usually stay above that, amount of health. It could be decent for tanks too, because the tanks are getting healed, but the tanks are also taking damage, so they're less likely to be above that. But yeah, I think this is going to benefit tanker or not tank, healer or DPS more. And then endurance conduit, then you choose either finesse, potency, or endurance. For finesse, you get the resonant accolades. When receiving healing or healing an ally, 5% of the healing is repeated. So this mixed with that makes me think this was definitely designed, I think, for healers in mind. It leans more towards healing. You get to make your party members get 5% more health, but it could also be for tank too, because it's not just healing done, it's received. So if you receive healing, then it can also be repeated onto you. But regardless, I definitely think it's suited for more tanks or healers. And then Bearer's Pursuit. Your damaging spells and abilities have a chance to decrease your target's movement speed. So that's kind of nice. And again, the one before that is Potency, so they kind of go to each other. If you decide to go the damage route, you can damage and then have a chance to reduce their movement speed. And then Endurance will give you the Pointed Courage, where critical strike is increased by 1% for every nearby enemy or ally. Definitely useful for if you're in a group content at all, dungeons or raids, you're going to pretty much constant 5% um, crit strike because you're going to have your 4 allies. Now, it doesn't say how close they have to be, it just says nearby, but I assume they'd be close enough, so you could have a constant 5% crit. And then you get the potency, and then you choose either Cleansing Rites. After 5 seconds out of combat, you gain a shield for 10% of your health, lasts for 30 seconds. Or Ever Forward, while above 90% health, your mountain movement speed is increased. So I feel like that's just going to be more useful overall. But it also will depend on the conduit, whether you want the endurance or the finesse. And just in general, when it comes to combat at least, endurance and potency are usually more useful than the finesse ones. The finesse is more utility based, but there could be ones that you really want from finesse. And then finally, Valiant Strikes. You and your nearby allies' crit strikes grant you stacks of Valiant Strikes up to 40, and in that 40 stacks, you heal nearby allies for 5% of their maximum health. So yeah, this just screams healer to me. Um, I don't know for sure right now if I'm going to have my shaman be Kyrian, but if I do, I'm almost certain that this is the one I would pick for restoration, and I would probably pick Pelagos for DPS. I don't know either one or both DPS. And then finally we have Forge Light Prime Mikanikos. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it or not. Anyway, charge additive. File of Serenity also knocks nearby enemies away from you. Could be interesting. If this is supposed to be the tank version though, I don't know about that one. Forge Light Filter. When reduced below 30% health, your file automatically heals you and consumes a charge. I think this is definitely suited for a tank. Automatically get a heal without having to actually use it, as long as you have a charge. And then plus you get a potency one, so probably would almost always do that. And then endurance, and then you choose between 3 different traits. Hammer of Genesis. Damaging a new enemy grants 2% haste for 10 seconds, and it's up to 5 stacks. So great for AoE, get a bunch of haste. Sparkling Drift Globe Core. When reduced below 35% health, you stun nearby enemies for 3 seconds. Now this may only occur once every 5 minutes. So that's not bad. You get a free stun. So even though it's only once every 5 minutes, I don't know. Depends on it's going to depend on the conduit choice. A lot of these things are going to depend on the conduit choice. And then the Soul Steel Clamps. After 5 seconds of standing still, incoming stun and incapacitate durations are reduced by 30%, and then it lasts for 5 seconds once you start moving. So as long as you're standing still, you're going to have reduced, loss of movement, basically, effects. So that mixed with the fact that it could be, that you can choose a potency means that you this could be a decent choice. And then another finesse conduit. Again, talking about the conduits, it's when we have access to all of the different conduits, and again we have access to more of them. So I'm going to go over more conduits in the future, and with more testing. But yeah, it's definitely going to be the choice is going to be coming down to not just the trait but the conduit. So you'll have to look at the different conduits available, see which one. So like in this situation, you would look at these three choices and then look at these three conduits. Which one has the desired effect, or the most usefulness to you when you combine both the trait that you get and the conduit that you get. So this one might be decent, or maybe you don't really want haste that much, but the endurance conduit's really good and you might go that route. Or this one, you know maybe this one is not really that desirable, but you have a really good finesse conduit that you really want to put in here. So it's going to be a combination of both of them outweighing, I mean, which which one's better, the conduit or the effect, or which path is going to be more useful to you. So finally, we get to regenerating materials. Casting or receiving healing has a chance to improve the remaining durability of your armor. And then resilient plumage, where fall damage is decreased by 20%. And after falling, the damage you take is reduced. Of course, it's not actually right because it says 0%, but basically you take fall damage. You take reduced fall damage, and then after you fall, the damage that you take. So once you fall, you take reduced damage. You get a damage reduction after you fall for 30 seconds. So again, it's not really a practical thing that's going to be happening in like boss fights and raids, but it's a little something extra. It's like if you fall, now you get damage reduction. And then bronze call to action. After 120 spells and abilities, your next spell or ability summons Braun, who attacks and heals targets. I really want to see this one. But it's also like up for 120 spells. I don't count how many spells and abilities I used during a fight, but I feel like it's going to take a while for that one to happen. But I also assume Braun's got to be pretty epic. But yeah, that's interesting. I definitely want to see that. So overall, some pretty cool things here. Another one that seems kind of, again, you can choose whatever you want, but a lot of these trees definitely seem more they seem to lean in one direction or the other. Whether one seems to lean towards DPS, one leans towards healing, one leans towards tank. I think they did that on purpose, and that's why there's three different Soulbinds. So even though I don't necessarily like the fact that conduits stay even when you switch specs, they do seem to have it designed to where, as a DPS, for instance. Now for druids, druids might have a little bit of trouble. Shaman a little bit different because they have two different DPS specs. Priests just because they have two healing specs. But for the most part, this one, Pelago, seems more DPS oriented. Could work for other ones, but it definitely seems more DPS oriented. The Clea, is this the one that was tank? Yeah. I think this one seems, or no, I think it's the healing one. Yeah, above 90% health and receiving. It could work for tank or healing, but yeah, this one definitely still seems to lean more towards the healing, and then the Forge Light seems more towards tanking just because of the reduced or automatically using a charge. The other one's not really so much, but yeah. And then so Forge Light doesn't necessarily seem like he really goes one way or another, but I mean you know what I mean. It seems like DPS heal and then could be tank. But I imagine that as I go through and look at a lot of these Soulbinds and Covenants, it's going to have that same feel where one Soulbind is going to lean more towards the direction of one of the three different specs of DPS, tank, or heal. So that's all for my video on the Kyrian Soulbinds. If you liked the video, please give a like and subscribe for future videos. I'll be doing a bunch of Shadowlands beta content. And as always, thanks for watching.